Good evening to everybody, and welcome to BISTRO Buzz Season 3 Conversations with Sutapa Basu, which is a talk show hosted on my Facebook page. And the link is www.facebook.com/SUTAPABSU20. Bistro Bus is all about buzzing. We talk about culture, we talk about art, we talk about entertainment, books, poetry, or just exchange random reflections. Basically, it's a conversation between you and me. Bistrobus also hosts live talk shows with inspiring personalities from different fields of knowledge who give us food for thought. So, several evenings, the table at Bistrobus is heaped with fine cuisine, and you are invited to walk in and taste it. You can listen to it, you can talk about it, you can even argue about it, or just enjoy it. So, look out for the space at Bistrobus at 6:30 p.m. And now, let's welcome the first guest on Bistro Buzz Season 3, Sunita Pant Bansal. Hi, Sunita. Welcome to Bistro Buzz Season 3. It's so good that you've taken time out to be with us.
Thank you, Sutapa. Thank you so much. And I must say thank you for bringing me on here, inviting me for Mr. Buzz.
No, it's
I've been
not.
following it, and last time when I heard it was, I also keep commenting, Yeah, so it's good.
So let us now, I'll just tell you something about our guest. So Sunita Pant Bansal is a mythologist, a storyteller. She hails from Kumaon Hills of the Himalayas. Her forte is demystifying Hindu scriptures to show their relevance and application in today's times. She explores and reinterprets the timelessness of characters from epics and foundational texts in her stories, seamlessly blending mythology and history with real life. And her books are things are like Krishna, the Management Guru, and Everyday Gita. Now, Sunitha has authored 25 books for adults and young adults decoding the philosophy of mythology and hundreds of books for children on folk literature and scriptures. Her books sell in multiple languages globally, but she doesn't limit herself to books only. Sunita has also dabbled in writing articles, columns, and stories, creating jigsaw puzzles and board games, and producing short films. In her long and illustrious career spanning 4 decades, Sunita has also headed publishing houses, founded, edited newspapers and magazines for readers in India as well as the US and UK. She has worked with giants like Walt Disney, Warner Brothers, Pearson Education, the Times of India, Hindustan Times, and the ABP group of newspapers and magazines. Sunita's latest bestseller is her fictional narrative titled The Return of Vikram and Betal. So here is the book. And this has been published by Lithuania and will be launched at the Jaipur Literature Festival in just a few days. So catch her there. So now, Sunita.
Thank you, Sutapa, for such a wonderful animated description of me.
No, but you are all that, isn't it? Now, you have been renowned as a mythologist. We've just spoken about it. So tell us what sparked your interest in mythology?
Actually, I was brought up in an environment where there was a lot of mythology. And, apart from school, when you go to school, you don't really get to hear stories from mythology. But what happens is when you come back home, what you read, that matters a lot. And what you listen to, that matters a lot. So my childhood, I remember that my grandmother used to tell me stories, and all her stories were mythology and folk tales and stuff like Panchtantra. So the only stories that I had heard were these. So it was not that my interest was sparked by anything. It was probably already there, or maybe I was kind of brought up on a diet of mythology that it was kind of natural for me to be writing or reading or thinking or working on mythology so much. So that's how it happened. All thanks to my daddy, you know. And of
So
course, we've always had a huge library of books on mythology. I think practically all the books that Gorakhpur Press, Gita Press in Gorakhpur ever printed, published, must be with my Dadaji, because the house used to be full of books, and all of them obviously from Gita Press or mythology. Lovely, colorful books also for children also, and those are the books I was encouraged to read. In my spare time, and I was always fond of reading. So my grandparents would encourage me to read mythology, biographies, and stuff like that. Whereas in school, we would read like Red Riding Hoods and other such things, in Brightons, and I mean, that's what the school stuff was. But coming to home, well, it was all mythology. So that's how it happened.
so basically, it was a part of your life, a part of your growing up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there was really, nothing that triggered that
Yeah.
interest. It's simply a part, like something, the environment in which you grew up, basically. Now, you have written a lot of books. You just said that you read a lot of books, mythological books for children. So, you also have written books for children and adults on the Gita. So, tell me something. Did you find a path of spirituality through mythology? And that is why you wrote on the Gita? So, were you able to hear me, Sunita?
And no, there's a slight break in the signal. Could you repeat?
Can I repeat the question?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay, so what I wanted to say is that you have written books for both children and adults on the Gita.
Yeah.
Now, Gita is a spiritual book. Uh, okay, we'll wait for Sunita to come back. In fact, I'm very excited about the fact that her book is going to be launched at the JLF.
The signal
Yeah.
just went. The signal went off.
Okay, you're back now.
Yeah, I am.
Okay. So again, I'll just repeat the question. You have been writing books for both children and adults on the Gita. And the Gita is, we know
Yeah.
it's a spiritual text. So did you find a path to spirituality through mythology?
Oh yes. Oh yes. Mythology, because you see, when you continue reading stories about gods, goddesses, and whatever else is there in mythology, you and when you start reading mythology of other countries also, then you realize that everything is the same, and that's actually what Gita tells us. Is it talks about, like, mythology, for instance, would talk about stories of trees, plants, stories of animals, right? Stories of
Hmm.
planets. I mean, there are stories about everything, and everything is actually everything is supposed to have life. I mean, everything is kind of humanized. I mean, that's how my dad used to tell me.
Yeah.
So that kind of made me realize that each and all of us, whether plants or animals or even stones for that matter, they all of us have a soul. I mean, I even used to talk to stones. Like, I would collect pebbles from the river and kind of, have a little shrine and then actually talk to them. So it used to be like, that uh, there is this common soul in every living being or even non-living being for me. And that thing, kind of was there in me right from the beginning, and thanks to all these stories. So, and that eventually, when I read Gita also, I realized that, isn't this what it's all about? And then I read other people's interpretation of Gita, and I read a lot of other spiritual masters, and I read a lot of about other religions also. And I realized, oh yeah, it's the same thing, that everyone is telling us. They have their own vocabulary, they have their own words, they have their own style of talking about it or writing about it. That's all there is to it. But actually, it's the same thing. It's the same soul, it's the same everything. And this is the impermanence of it, of leaving behind everything, the detachment part of it, all that stuff is just the same. It's just the same. And loving everyone like your own, like your own self, treating everyone like, I've studied in a Christian school, so what we learned in Bible was exactly the same what I would read back home. So that's how, it was kind of it was very natural, I think, that if you get so steeped in mythology, you eventually, you don't even realize when you're actually, you started on the path of spirituality. Thank you,
Mona
Mona
Lisa,
Lisa.
thank you so much. You're finding the discussion so interesting. So let me now
Thank you.
add a little, spice to it. Now you have written books on UG Krishnamurti, who
Ah,
actually questioned the idea of spiritual enlightenment. How did you reconcile his philosophy with your foray into spiritual texts like the Gita?
well, the answer actually is very simple. Whatever you write about because you find that topic interesting. You write about it. That doesn't really mean that you are actually, following that, because like I've written not only about UG, I've written a whole lot of, I've been editing articles by probably all the spiritual masters that we have today, whether Sadhguru, whether Shri Shri, all of them, because I was editing magazines. So, one reads a lot, and some teachings, some people resonate, others are just okay kinds. They're saying what we already know. Now, UG Krishnamurti book, the first book that came to me for editing came from Mahesh Bhatt, and it was given to another publishing house, friends of mine, but they didn't want to publish it because it was very controversial. So they asked me to edit it, and when I edited it, I realized that there was nothing controversial. This guy was talking sense, and he was talking what I always think about, and so I kind of liked him. So I agreed to publish it because these publishers refused. So I said, okay, I had my own publishing imprint by then. So I said, okay, I'll publish it. And that's how I edited and published it. That was the first one. And then Mahesh Bhatt gave me subsequent all the books, and this UG books started. And I met UG Krishnamurti also. But you see, what he said against what he had against spiritual enlightenment was that he wanted to tell people that if you follow the spiritual masters, thinking that you're going to get spiritually enlightened because you're following them, that doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. And there's nothing like there'll be a light bulb or something. Something will happen to you. Nothing like that happens. It's just an understanding, isn't it? It's just something that just clicks in your head, and that is what it is. And in his case, he had a lot of physical changes in his body. So his case was different. It was literally a case to be studied, by doctors, because he had physical symptoms. His chakras got inflamed, and so many other things happened with him. But the moment he would say stuff like,
I'm sorry. I think there is a little bit of a lag with the Wi-Fi connection, but we'll get her back. And I think what you were saying is very interesting because that is what I think spirituality is all about. You have to take all viewpoints, and that is how the path to spirituality is completely individual. It is your own path, and how you walk it, or what is it that inspires you to walk it,
yes,
is completely
yeah,
your own.
yeah. Yes, and Yuji said things only to wake up people. It used to be a wake up call. He would like literally shake them up and say, "Listen, you're following this, or this guy is a fraud." Things like that. So once you understood him, then you wouldn't really mind, his language or his style of talking or whatever. So for me, it was. I don't think he was any different than anybody else, and he was probably better than most people. And I've read a whole lot of them, and I think ultimately they say the same thing. Exactly. And Gita is the best. That's the kind of ultimate book.
And that is why I think you have written about Krishna, because you
Yeah.
say you call Krishna, your book is Krishna the management guru, right? So tell us a little bit about that.
Uh, you see, Krishna. If you see Krishna, he's the only God who's. I mean, if I say not God, like people might take offense, but what I mean is Krishna is more like a friend. You know,
Hmm.
the persona of Krishna is friendly, very approachable, and very intelligent, problem solving, fun loving. So you see, the entire package is extremely kind of intriguing,
Human.
enticing, endearing, very human, very, very human. So,
Mhm.
and he's kind of, and he's done a lot of problem solving. So when I did this book, Krishna, the Management Guru, the 20 principles of management that are taken up, I just kind of culled out anecdotes from his life to explain how he resolved a certain problem. So again, it was an interpretation that I did, that here is a problem and this is what happens. People kind of panic and whatever. This is how Krishna solved this problem, and there are stories, and the stories are very popular stories because Krishna is one hell of a popular god. So all the stories are out there. Everyone knows those stories. It's just how you look at them, how you interpret them, and how you explain them. That's what matters. And that's how the book happened. That's how the book became a management book. Yeah.
But you are also a prolific advisor, on the Mensa platform where you discuss how to incorporate Gita into everyday life. Now, sometimes your participants, I've heard your talks and they are very interesting, but there are also sometimes when participants come up with complex problems. So, how do you handle those?
You see, I treat the participants as literally my children, in the sense that my daughters are grown up. One is in 20s, the other is in 30s. And the participants are like that, in that kind of age bracket. Some of them might be older. And so I have been kind of handling these questions since forever. Honestly, since forever, these questions have been thrown at me by my daughters, and
Yeah.
that is how my Gita book happened. My everyday Gita happened. So when my daughters read the book, they said, "Oh my God, this is exactly what you've been telling us since forever, and now you've made it into a book." So they kind of
So, they
so
found
that is
themselves
how
in
it
the
is.
book.
Yeah, because it's exactly how I talk to them. So when people ask me questions, they're very simplistic. Actually, they're not really complex. They seem complex to those people, but for me, they're not complex. There's things that I have heard from my children, heard from other people in the family a lot of times. So I'm familiar. I'm familiar with those questions, and they're very interesting. Some of them are very sweet also. Like there was this one guy asked me that what will happen, if I, if my grandmother dies before I get married. So she really wants to see me get married, and what happens if she dies. So so when you say that according to Gita, according to scriptures, according to everything, the belief is that whatever person wishes for at the last minute, the last breath, that happens. But this is what she's been wishing all the time, and she's going to die, and then what happens? So I have to tell them, no, she's going to come back, and you'll also come back in another life, and then she'll see you getting married. So it's not that it has to happen right now. So there at times, I mean, what can I say? There are all kinds of questions, but I enjoy doing that. I enjoy answering those questions, and it's really, really extremely gratifying, to be talking to people. You get to learn so much also. You get to learn about so many other problems that you probably haven't really written about. So I like it. I love it.
So, I think we should thank your girls because, it's our mother giving you the wisdom, those nuggets of wisdom with
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
Now, you have had also a long career as a publisher. How did you enter the
yes.
publishing?
You see, when people ask me questions about how I've entered whatever I've entered, I have no answer because it's always all been so organic and it's been so natural. It's been like I was called. I mean, what do I say? I was a practicing dietitian. I was giving diet advice to one of my patients, and that patient told me that, why didn't you write it down, let it come in a newspaper? And I said, okay, seems like a good idea. I went across the road, where the hospital was, went to the first magazine I saw, that was Sun Weekly, went to the editor. I told them I want to write. And, he liked my article. He told me, he asked me what should I write about. I said, okay, whatever I know, that was about diet. He's liked the article. He said, do a column. So I became a columnist. That's how. So that's how I just became a writer for nothing, no effort, literally. And as I was writing, there was this vacancy in the Times of India. And one of the editors that I was writing for, Manosham Joshi, he told me there's a vacancy out there in Vama. Why don't you go, and you'll be taken up. So I joined the editorial board of Vama. That's how. In Times of India, people liked my work. They made me the editor of Saturday Times. It was just like that. And then I went on holiday, came back, I was offered a job by Frank Brothers. So it's like, the whole thing has been,
They simply
I
walked
should
into your
say,
life. They
extremely,
simply walked into your life.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So the moment I joined Frank Brothers, I joined them as the editor in chief, and I was editing textbooks, about 800 odd textbooks we had that time. And I had spare time with me, and they had this kind of range of books that they wanted to kind of develop, and that was Frank Education Aids. And they said, okay, we'll make you a partner. They made me a one-third partner, a director, and I became a publisher. So it was just like that. Like one day I'm the editor in chief, the next day I'm the partner, and I become the publisher, and I'm kind of representing Frank in different parts of the world. So what do I say? What happened? How it happened? Things have been happening. God's grace. God is kind. I'm blessed.
Let's now come to your latest creation, I would say. So you've been writing nonfiction and very,
Yeah.
very profound nonfiction and very
Yeah.
successfully. But you decided to step into the fiction genre just last year with your book titled The Return of Vikram and Betal. Now, why did move from books on mythology and spirituality and management to pure fiction? What is it that, or did that also come walking into your life?
Actually, it did. Okay. Let me tell you how. No, I honestly, I was not thinking of fiction. I was only thinking that I should kind of work on the scriptures, simplify them, because that's what I do best. I kind of read them, I understand them, and I simplify them for people to understand. So that is something which I love doing. And so I thought that since I was writing for young adults, I was doing Ramayana, Mahabharat, and in those books what I had done, I had also included stories of, like, say, Ahilya and Ramayana and so on, where which is not usually done by other writers, and it was getting a good response. And in the end, I had given a chapter talking about the metaphoric meaning of Ramayana, how it is a metaphor, the symbolism behind everything. And that was being taken up very well. So I decided that, okay, if that is so, let me pick up something like a Betal Pachisi. And I've been very fond of Betal Pachisi. And it's very intriguing, when you read the original book. And I thought that maybe I should simplify it and kind of, create, maybe contemporize it, let's call it, and for the adults. And that's how I started doing it. And when I was doing it, and because Betal Pachisi, is kind of, it's been, people imagine that Pital Pachisi is Vikram and Vital, but actually it's much deeper than that. And the stories of original Betal Pachisi are very, very different than what we see on television or what we read. In fact, the last story of that book is very futuristic. It talks about. Can you imagine, so many thousands of years ago when this book was written? The last story talks about the British invasion, describing the British army. Can you imagine? I mean, this is something. How did they even know? Okay,
Yeah.
so these are the things that fascinate me, right, to the core. So I wanted to, kind of write something so that people would understand Betal Pachisi better. The philosophy of Betal Pachisi about justice, about nothing being black and white, and it's like, your right is my wrong and my right is your wrong. Things like that, that kind of stuff, which is again part of Gita. So I started working on it, and I was not getting the right stories to kind of, to contemplate. They were very boring. That's when I was watching this movie Rustam with my mother. And she, when she saw Rustam, she said, "Oh, in my time there was the same case was being done in black and white, so and so, whatever." And she remembered that movie so well, huh? And that's what made me think that people actually remember these cases. They're criminal cases, and people remember them so well. And so I thought, why am I thinking of contemporizing Vidal Pachisi? Why don't I look for criminal cases, the bizarre ones, the bizarre verdicts, and let me work on them? And that's how I kind of, again, slipped into it, literally, accidentally. And I dug out cases, about 30, 40 cases. And then I sat down with those cases and I said, okay, now I'll create fiction out of these cases. The case is here, the verdict is here, the rest is all fiction. That is what I'll do. That's what I did. And then I wove Vikram's life through it to get the message across. So that's how the whole thing kind of happened. Again, I would say it wasn't really by design.
So because of the TV program Vikram and Betal, people would have this feeling that probably it's meant for children, but it is not, because when you read it, there is a lot of depth into it. I mean, you have
Yes.
taken the case and then you have sort of broken it up, but while doing that, so much wisdom comes through, and that is like really, it really hits you basically, the wisdom, the nuggets of wisdom which are sandwiched between all these cases. So it's a wonderful book. And now I want to ask you, because you've taken cases, legal
Yeah.
cases that have happened all
Yes.
over the country,
Yes.
and they range. I mean, the range of those cases is also very, very wide. Right, from
Yes.
a love story to a murder mystery. So
Yes.
how did you choose those cases? What made you choose? I mean, what was the bar or the standard which made you choose these particular cases?
You see, it was something. Firstly, the couple of points in my head. One thing was that the cases should showcase the entire country, because crime is not limited to a particular state or a particular kind of community or anything like that. So I wanted to bring that in. So there was an effort where I dug out cases from the east, north, east, and south, west, everywhere, central India, everywhere. So
You must
that
have
was one effort that I
to research a lot.
tremendous research, tremendous. So that was one criteria. The other was that I wanted to also talk about social issues, love jihad being one, and lots of these kind of superstition and things like that. So I wanted to cover those as well. So so that's how I started sifting. Like I had a huge database of cases. Then I started sifting through these things, and then of course I also had to bring in cases which were kind of the ones that I could actually weave through Vikram's life. So if Vikram has parents, so the issues that he had, with his parents, the relationship he had with his father, the understanding of his mother, and so on, those cases. So I had to find out of the selection that I had to pick out those cases where I could showcase an emotion which is supposed to be very deep in Vikram, that would come out while his working on the case. Because I wanted the case, because this is true in life, that when we are going through our life, we learn unconsciously a lot. We imbibe a lot unconsciously, and a lot of things, I mean, even by watching TV, by reading books, we change the certain things, so that is what I wanted to show, that while he's working on a case, how he's getting affected. So I mean, because that is the actual theme, that how these things affect, and also the wisdom, because King Vikramaditya was a wise king, he was like King Solomon. So his justice was like the ultimate. So that also had to come. So the wisdom also had to flow, which is where Gita comes. So ultimately, you see, it kind of goes back to the same thing over and over again. It is just one path, one destination. So that is how it is. So
So
yes, a lot of
basically,
research.
yeah. So basically, this is a kind of different stories, but the string that threads them all is Vikram's own
Yes,
life and his own,
yes,
uh, whatever he has gone through, the problems that he
yes,
has gone through, and how he solves each of the problems as he goes through these cases. It's a beautiful concept. I mean,
yeah,
it is a composite novel. That is what a composite novel is supposed to be like. So it's a
thanks.
beautiful concept, and it's a lovely mixture of both fiction and non-fiction. I mean, it's
Yes,
really nice, and those, of course, like you said, those Gita bits and pieces are also over
yeah,
there.
yeah.
So
That is true.
we would love it if you can read a few lines, if it's possible.
Do we have time?
Yeah, yeah, we do. And for everyone, this
Yeah,
is the book. So
yeah.
listen to
My
Sunita reading from it.
yeah. Well, okay. Let me. Okay, okay. So here it goes. I'll have to keep it here to see. Uh, okay. So Vikram was enjoying his meal and reminiscing when suddenly a small piece of fish bone got caught in his windpipe and he started to choke. He coughed, eyes bulging out, one hand at his throat. the other trying to grab onto a glass of water. He had nearly passed out when suddenly someone pulled him up from his chair, holding his chest tightly from behind and whacked his upper back. And the little piece of bone came out of his mouth like a mini projectile. Vikram could breathe now. It was a waiter who had saved his life. Be careful of the bones, sir, the waiter said with a smile, helping Vikram to sit and mopping the water from the table where the glass had been knocked down by Vikram trying to reach it. Placing a fresh glass and a bottle of water on his table, the waiter then cheekily sat on the chair in front of Vikram. Before the stunned Vikram could open his mouth to say anything, the waiter said, I have saved you this time, but cannot guarantee that I will be able to save you again. And then, rather nonchalantly, he poured out some water in a glass for Vikram. As Vikram struggled to get his words, thoughts, and emotions together, the waiter offered the glass of water to him and continued, You see, your time on this planet is over. Unless. And Vikram managed to find his voice and, ignoring the proffered glass, blurted hoarsely, Who are you? What rubbish is this? Just because you saved me from choking doesn't mean that you can sit here with me. Call your manager. I'm going to sue you guys for this. Negligence in cooking? I could have died. Where is your manager? All this while, the waiter continued to sit with a benign smile on his face, listening patiently to Vikram's rants. The name tag on the waiter's pocket said Y. Doot. He did not look any different from the rest of the waiters as far as his demeanor was concerned, except for the twinkle in his eyes. Once Vikram calmed down a bit, the waiter said, Yes, you would have died. It was and still is your last day on this planet, unless you extend your life by solving a few cases for me. Suddenly, Vikram realized the waiter was serious. He carefully looked around him, slowly realizing that everyone else in that restaurant was busy, unaware of what was happening on his table, as though whatever was happening was meant only for Vikram. It was surreal.
Not to be studied. I mean, imagine it's really happening to somebody that there is this person sitting in front of you and telling you that this is your last day on earth,
Yeah.
unless you can do something about it. I mean, it's really, really very unusual and very intriguing. So I think that,
Yeah.
and
So,
that is the yeah, that is the
good.
beginning of the entire story. And
Yeah.
you
And
know,
that's what Betal was doing to Vikramaditya, So,
yes.
you see, it's just, yeah.
So even though we know the story, the basic story of Vikram and Betal, this book, it's extremely intriguing and you cannot put it down. You will continue to read wondering what is going to come next and what is the next case and how does Vikram solve it and what does he learn from it. So it's really, really intriguing, and I will suggest to everybody that please pick up this book because I really could not keep it down. I just read it at one go. And anybody
Thank
who's
you so
going
much.
to the Airport Literature Festival, please go ahead, meet Sunita, talk to her, and
Oh,
get her
yes.
signed.
That would be very nice. Yes, please do come. Whoever's there at JLF, please come. Let's catch up there. People who are there, Facebook friends, a whole lot of them are going to be there. I'm looking forward to meeting a lot of them there. It's going to be good fun, I'm sure. I mean, DLF is always fun, so it's not that my book is
Yeah,
going to make it any different. But yes, I'm ecstatic. I'm like, kind of on whichever level of heaven there is, the highest. I'm beyond that because this is something which is, which every author wants, and this is something that has happened to me. And going there, getting my book launched, and Namita Gokhale launching it as well. I mean, what else can an author ask for? Nothing, honestly.
absolutely.
And for the
So,
first fiction, first
yes,
attempt of fiction, I can't even call myself a fiction writer, honestly. I
you are
cannot.
very much, you are very much that. Anyway, the best
I've
of luck
become.
to you, and all the best wishes, Sunita. I mean,
Yeah, thank you.
we are all with you, just like the force is with you. So we are all with you, and I'm
You guys
sure.
are my forces, you guys are my force. You guys are my force. You guys are my
I'm going
force.
to get, and I'm sure we are going to get more and more fiction from you. So
Yeah.
here's Josna. So this is what she says. Best wishes, Sunita ji. It was wonderful listening and learning from you as always. And
Thank you, Jyotsna.
I
Thank you so
totally agree
much.
with her.
Thank you, Jyotsna. Thank you. Thank you, Sutapa. Thank you, Ridhamania. Thank you, Dipankar. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, universe. Yeah.
And thank you for giving us such a wonderful book. And we're going to look for more. We're not going to leave you, Sunita. We're going to look for more.
Well, fingers crossed. If everyone is thinking like you,
Absolutely.
whoever's reading this book is thinking like you, well, I've got the stuff ready for the sequel. For the next one. I have enough cases. I have enough
I'm sure.
cases.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
I have enough.
So
Yeah.
thank you, everybody, for being with us. And thank you, Sunita. You took time
Thank you so
out
much.
and you are very busy because I know that you must be preparing to go to the JLF.
Yes.
So 20th is the day she is launching her book. So please be there for the launch. And I'm sure it's going to be just as interesting as this chat was. So thank you very much,
Thank
everyone,
you.
and a very good evening to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.